Have you ever walked into a room and felt the air shift around someone? Not because they spoke loudly or demanded attention, but because something about their presence made everyone else recalibrate. You've seen it. That person who says little, but somehow controls everything. Whose silence feels heavier than anyone else's words. Whose approval people chase without being asked. What if I told you that kind of power isn't a gift you're born with? It's a language you can learn. A code written in stillness, carved into every movement, hidden in every pause. Imagine standing in front of someone and watching them measure you with their eyes, not aggressively, but with such deliberate focus that you suddenly become aware of how you're standing, how you're breathing, what your hands are doing. That's not charisma, that's command. And the most unsettling part? They haven't said a single word yet. Before language, before logic, before any conversation begins, your body has already told them everything. Whether you realize it or not, you're constantly broadcasting. Every fidget screams nervousness. Every forced smile bleeds desperation. Every time you fill silence with unnecessary words, you're hemorrhaging power into the air. Most people destroy their authority the second they move. They gesture wildly when they speak, trying to convince rather than command. They shift their weight when uncomfortable, telegraphing insecurity to everyone watching. They smile too quickly, laugh too easily, explain too much. And with every motion, they become smaller. Because respect doesn't come from activity. It comes from precision, from the economy of movement. From making every gesture feel expensive, like it costs you something to expend that energy. When you move, it should feel like a decision, not a reaction. Think about the last time you saw someone truly powerful. Not loud, not aggressive, just undeniably present. What did they do? Probably very little. They stood still while others fidgeted. They held eye contact while others looked away. They waited in silence while others rushed to fill the void. That stillness is what unnerves people. It disrupts the rhythm everyone else is dancing to. When the whole room is moving, laughing, talking, the person who remains perfectly composed becomes the center of gravity. Not because they demand it, but because their restraint creates a vacuum that pulls attention toward them. Your posture is not decoration, it's a declaration. When you stand, you must own the ground beneath you. Shoulders back, not because someone told you to, but because your body must broadcast that you don't shrink to fit spaces, you expand them. Your chest open, your chin level, your feet anchored like roots. The human brain reads open posture as dominance and closed posture as submission. Every time you fold your arms defensively, every time you hunch your shoulders, every time you make yourself smaller, you're surrendering respect before anyone even speaks to you. And when you sit, do it like someone who doesn't ask permission to exist. Most people perch on the edge of chairs, ready to spring up and prove themselves useful. They cross their legs defensively, fold inward, make themselves compact. But power takes space without apology. Sit back. Let your body settle. Own the chair like it's a throne, because the way you occupy space tells everyone watching whether you believe you deserve to be there. And if you don't believe it in your bones, in your posture, in the way you breathe, why should they? Now, about your eyes. This is where most people fail without knowing it. Your gaze must not wander like prey scanning for threats. It must select. When you look at someone, hold it just long enough for them to feel it. Not a stare that challenges, but a look that measures. You're not trying to intimidate. You're trying to make them aware they've been seen, truly seen, by someone who doesn't look carelessly. Then release. Look away as if your attention has a limited supply and they've just consumed their share. That subtle shift teaches them something profound. Your focus is a privilege, not a given. Eye contact, when mastered, becomes a leash. People start regulating themselves under your gaze. They adjust their tone. They choose their words more carefully. They unconsciously align their behavior to what they imagine your standards might be. You haven't said anything. You've just looked at them with intention. But that intention created pressure, and pressure shapes behavior. The moment your gaze moves on, you've taught everyone present that your interest cannot be owned, only borrowed briefly. But here's the deeper secret, the one that separates those who understand power from those who merely perform it. Strength isn't just in how you look at others. It's in how you look away. Weak men look down when uncertain, betraying their doubt to everyone watching. Strong men look through, as if their focus extends beyond this moment, beyond this room, beyond the immediate conversation. That subtle detachment, that sense that you exist on a plane slightly removed from the chaos around you, tells the world that you cannot be easily reached, that your attention is aimed at something they cannot see. And what people cannot see, they elevate in their imagination. Your voice must follow the same principle. Loud men are rarely respected. They're just tolerated until they exhaust themselves. Real authority lives in control, not volume. Speak slower than feels natural. Let your pitch drop slightly lower than your normal register. Deep tones signal calm, and calm signals certainty. Every word should be enunciated, as if it were being carved into stone, permanent and deliberate. And between your sentences, let silence breathe. That pause is not empty space. It's a weapon. When you pause, they lean in. They anticipate. They assign value to your next words based on how long you made them wait. The voice of authority never rushes, because it knows that sound will return when it decides, not when anxiety demands it. Your face is the final frontier of control, and it's where most people confess everything they're trying to hide. A flicker of irritation, an uncontrolled smile, a raised eyebrow. Each micro-expression is a leak in your armor. Practice the art of neutral expression, that delicate balance between indifference and awareness. Your resting face should give nothing away unless you consciously choose to reveal it. When your face becomes unreadable, people can't predict what you're thinking, so they behave carefully to avoid being wrong about you. They start protecting themselves against a judgment they're not sure you've made. That uncertainty keeps them small, keeps them careful, keeps them respectful. And proximity, this invisible mathematics between bodies, dictates hierarchy more than most people realize. Stand too far and you look weak, like you're afraid to occupy shared space. Stand too close and you look desperate, like you need their validation. The perfect distance is just close enough that they feel your presence as a physical fact, but just distant enough that you could walk away without effort. That tension, that subtle suggestion that you might withdraw at any moment, is what maintains respect. The powerful never cling. They orbit, present but never dependent, near but never needy. Finally, master your exits. The way you leave punctuates your entire presence. Never linger. When the conversation reaches its natural end it with precision. A brief nod, a moment of silence, a turn, and you're gone. Leave them mid-thought. Force them to feel your absence like a sudden drop in temperature. The respect you leave behind, the residue of your controlled presence, is often stronger than anything you said while you were there. Because what lingers in memory isn't just what happened. It's how it felt when you stopped happening. Here's what they don't tell you about respect. It's never just admiration. Beneath every form of genuine respect lies a thread of fear. Not the kind that makes people run, but the kind that makes them careful. The fear of losing something valuable. Your approval, your attention, your presence. People don't respect what's always available. They respect what they're afraid they might lose. This is the invisible architecture that holds every power dynamic together. When someone starts rehearsing their words before speaking to you, when they adjust their tone in your presence, when they think twice before disappointing you, that's not just respect. That's emotional gravity. Emotional gravity is the weight your presence exerts without effort. It's not built through displays of anger or dominance. It's built when people realize that your withdrawal feels more punishing than anyone else's confrontation. When your silence carries more consequence than other people's rage. That's the mastery. You're not trying to make them fear you. You're making them fear losing access to you. And that subtle distinction changes everything. Because people can rebel against external threats. But they can't rebel against their own desire to stay in your orbit. The foundation of this gravity is emotional detachment. You must be able to pull back completely without visible frustration. When people sense that your emotions aren't easily accessible, they become cautious. The unknown is always more powerful than the obvious. They can measure anger, they can predict frustration, but they can't quantify your indifference. That uncertainty keeps them alert, keeps them guessing, keeps them trying to read you. Someone disrespects you, and you don't argue, you observe. Someone tries to provoke you, and you don't raise your voice, you smile faintly. That restraint creates a psychological imbalance. They braced for chaos, and you gave them calm. That calm feels unnatural, and what feels unnatural disturbs people at a level they can't articulate. Now, learn to make your emotions scarce. Warmth is most powerful when it's rare. When you finally show appreciation, let it land like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Grief, brilliant, then gone. People remember that moment. They crave it. They'll work to earn it again because you've turned your approval into currency. Every time you respond emotionally, you spend power. Every time you remain composed, you accumulate it. This is the discipline of reaction. The less reactive you are to the world, the more the world reacts to you. Distance amplifies this effect exponentially. Most people fear distance because they think it makes them irrelevant. A distance is what makes your value measurable. Familiarity dissolves mystery. Scarcity solidifies it. When people can reach you easily, when they know exactly where you are and what you're doing, they begin to see you as ordinary. But when your time, your attention, your very presence becomes limited, it transforms into something precious. And precious things are handled with respect. Withdraw strategically. Don't disappear out of weakness. Vanish from strength. Leave before you're fully understood. Return without explanation. The less predictable your availability, the more powerful your aura becomes. People start filling in the blanks with their imagination, and imagination is always louder than reality. The balance you're seeking is this: admired but slightly feared. Not feared in the sense of violence or cruelty, but feared in the sense that disappointing you carries weight, that losing your regard would actually cost them something. This is the magnetic line that true leaders walk. Too much fear, and you breed rebellion. Too much warmth, and you breed presumption. But that perfect middle ground, where people feel valued but never certain, where they're drawn to you but slightly cautious, that's where respect becomes permanent. Master psychological silence to maintain this balance. Real silence isn't just the absence of words. It's the presence of weight. When someone speaks to you, let them finish, then wait. Let the pause stretch until it becomes slightly uncomfortable. Don't rush to fill it. That space makes people think. It makes them question whether what they said was enough, was right, was worthy. You haven't criticized them. You've just made them criticize themselves through your silence. They start to self-correct, to explain, to justify, to add more. You've dominated them without speaking a word. Another technique is measured contradiction. Occasionally, react in ways that defy expectation. Someone gets angry, you become amused. Someone flatters you, you respond with indifference. Someone gossips, you meet it with stillness. Each time you do this, you scramble their ability to predict you. Confusion creates caution. When they can't figure out what will please or displease you, they approach everything carefully. They stop taking you for granted because they've learned that you don't follow the script everyone else follows. Your tone under pressure reveals everything. A calm voice when chaos erupts is more terrifying than any amount of shouting. The absence of emotional escalation communicates absolute mastery, as if you already know how this ends and have no need to prove anything along the way. People interpret calm as certainty, and certainty is the shape of power. When everything around you is falling apart and your voice remains level, almost bored, you tell the world that you've seen worse and survived it, that nothing here threatens you. That steadiness is magnetic because most people are buffeted by every wind that blows. Practice what might be called emotional amnesia. Never hold grudges openly. Let offenses dissolve into silence. When people expect revenge and you give them indifference, you elevate yourself above the battlefield entirely. That restraint unsettles them far more than vengeance ever could. Revenge satisfies your ego for a moment. Indifference builds your legend forever. It says you're too focused on larger things to be derailed by petty slights. It says their actions, while noted, don't warrant your energy. And that calculation, that cold mathematics of worth, makes them feel small without you having to diminish them. What you're building here is a situation where people begin to protect your perception of them. They start regulating their own behavior, not because you demanded it, but because they don't want to fall in your estimation. Your respect becomes something they carry inside themselves as a standard. They ask themselves what you would think before acting. They measure their choices against an image of you they've constructed in their mind. When you reach this point, you've transcended mere influence. You've become the reference point, the internal compass they consult without being asked. This is the shadow crown, the kind of dominance that doesn't require constant assertion, that rules without needing to remind anyone who's ruling. Your presence has been internalized. Even when you're absent, your standards, your composure, your careful nature lives in their minds. They hear your silence in their thoughts. They imagine your reaction before making decisions. You've installed yourself as the operating system behind their choices. And that, more than any display of power, more than any demonstration of authority, is how respect becomes permanent. Not because you're always there enforcing it, but because you've made them enforce it on themselves. That's not just respect. That's sovereignty over the invisible.